For those of you that are new, and I see some new faces, this is the wheel. The wheel is a divine idea in the mind of creation to give the service back to the community. And so I get questions from different people in the community, and they go on the wheel. And then we spin the wheel at the beginning of the service to find out how the talk is going to be contextualized. So I never know what I'm actually going to talk about until I come in here and do this. How does science of mind explain Satan? So, I don't know what you're going to do during the meditation, but I know I'm going to seek an answer on that. To remember to turn my pocket on. Let's take a breath together. So, we're continuing our annual theme of first thing first, and only you know what that is. And why is that an annual theme? Because way too often we try to do things that are down the road before we do the first thing, and then we're all distracted because something inside of us knows what that first thing is, and if we don't attend to it, we'll just keep rubber banding back until we do. And so this year we're looking at a metaphysical interpretation approach to the 12 steps and 12 traditions of recovery. A divine idea in the mind of creation came out of metaphysical groups trying to help one another in recovery. And a lot of folks don't know that. If you know the history of science of mind, you're familiar with Emma Curtis Hopkins. If you're familiar with the 12 steps written by Dr. Bill and Dr. Bob in Alcoholics Anonymous. But what you may not know is that they were actually in residence on Emma Curtis Hopkins' High Watch farm when they wrote those. There's a definite integration. So August, and there's 12 steps, there's 12 traditions, there's 12 months, so it kind of writes itself. Right? So we're in the 8th month, and so we are in, the first 2 weeks are step 8. And step 8, if you have the study guide, right, this is where we move from healing our own stuff to beginning to heal some of the stuff that we created through the impact of our stuff. Right? So step 8 reads this way. We made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Now, I don't know about you, but the first time I read that, everything inside of me said, not no, but oh no, no. Because I didn't have enough paper or enough ink for that list. Because I knew I didn't have enough paper and ink for the people I knew I had harmed. But part of this journey of becoming willing is surfacing people we didn't even know we harmed. Taking responsibility not from a place of guilt, shame, and blame, but from a place of impact. Right? Redefining harm, because most of us, if we're going to look at who we've harmed, we got a pretty high bar of egregiousness before you qualify as being harmed. Right? I didn't smack you. Right? I didn't take your money. But there's lots of harm. There's lots of impact that negatively impacts this human race. And not just the human race. We live on a planet. How have I Have I lived in ways that have negatively impacted this beautiful Earth Mother? Have I lived in ways that negatively impacted my pets? That negatively impacted my job? Even the profession? Right? As a minister, everything I do, it doesn't just reflect on Rafe. It reflects on this community. It reflects on the organization of Centers for Spiritual Living. It reflects on the teachings of Science of Mind. It reflects on the profession of ministry. It doesn't matter whether I agree with it, whether I think it's just, or whether I like it. None of those factors change the reality that those things are impacted by everything I think, say, and do. So I am at choice. I can own it. I can be resentful. I can cop an attitude and say, well, that's only that way because of people's perception, and I don't care what they think. I'm going to do me. And I have done that. It hasn't gone well. Good morning. Welcome. It hasn't gone well, necessarily. Right? And sometimes when we own our stuff, it doesn't go well, necessarily. Right? So part of the journey of becoming willing is exactly that. Becoming willing. Willing to first be honest with ourselves. Because before I'm honest with you, I need to be honest with me. Not just honest about the stuff I did, but honest about the impact. Honest about how I'm feeling. Honest about, in reality, unless you tell me what the impact is, I don't necessarily know. See, we play fast and loose with thinking we know what somebody else experienced. Right? One of the most misused words in the English language is want. Right? We throw that word around like we actually know something. Well, they just want blah, blah, blah. How do you know what they want? You look at their behavior through your filter, and what you're really saying is, if I engaged in that behavior, it would be because I want blah, blah, blah. That ain't about the other person. That's about you. We don't want to own that. Right? Because there's a self-righteous indignation in thinking we know what somebody wants. Or thinking we know what somebody means. Right? And then there's that place where somebody's trying desperately to clarify what they mean, and we dig our heels in. Well, ain't what you said. You said blah, 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 blah. I understand those were the words I used. This is what I'm trying to communicate. Yeah, that's not what you said. And we keep circling back. And if somebody does that to us, how do we react? Right? Part of this becoming willing is taking ownership beyond the behavior. What's motivating your behavior? That's where the rubber meets the road. Right? What's motivating your behavior? I listened to a radio station. I wish I could tell you which radio station it is, but I don't know the call number. I just know I love it. And there's a DJ on in the morning, and she is just delightful. And when she signs off, she's forever saying, have a good day and mind your own business. Mind your business. Right? What if we did that? What if becoming willing to make amends begins and ends with your business, not somebody else's? Notice this step is about becoming willing. You're not taking any action yet. This is about you getting real with you. This is about moving the needle from those silent resentments where we blame other people and take ownership for why we feel the way we feel. Go back to the acronym TFUA. Our thoughts create our feelings create our urges lead to our action. If you're feeling something you don't like, blaming someone else is 100% anchored in victim consciousness. 100%. Nobody can make you feel anything unless they're touching you. They can make you feel tactile, but they can't make you feel an emotion. They cannot. And when you blame someone for making you feel something emotionally, what you're saying is that you are not in control of you. You are a victim of circumstances. You have no choice in the matter. Now that may not be what you intend to say. That may not be the words you're using. I suspect it's not. That may not be what you want to be saying. It doesn't change that's what you're saying. This step is a step of ownership. It's a step of digging below the obvious. Right? If you've ever cheated on a test, right? That's one of those that people like to pull up. Well, I ain't hurt anybody but myself. Really? I suspect there was impact on the teacher. I suspect, especially if the grades were on a curve, you impacted every other student taking that test. Right? If in a brilliant education system, the test results are used as feedback to help the teacher become a better teacher, you messed with that process. You impacted that process negatively, which can then impact future students. See, we don't stop and think about the snowball effect. Right? If we really understood the domino effect, the ripple effect, whatever you call it, about impact, as a human race, we would heal racism like that. We would heal it instantly. Because every time as a melanin-deprived human being, any of us say, well, I didn't create racism. Factually accurate. You weren't there when it all started. But, like the reading said, our refusal to see it is an advocation of our power to act, to heal it. And that, beloveds, has a ripple effect. Refusing to acknowledge poverty behind some twisted notion that acknowledging it legitimizes it and empowers it. Stop it. That is a misuse of spiritual principle. You have eyes. See what you see. And when you see it, treat and move your feet. I'm not saying treat for the individual. I'm saying treat for the awareness within the human race that there is more than enough resources for every human being to have an overflow. And then listen. See, we're good at treating, but then we don't shut up and listen. You are infinite intelligence informed. Everything you need to know, you already know. Choose to be aware of it now. We're so busy looking outside of ourselves for answers. We don't hear the ones that are living in us. I know ministers in New Thought who will not give to a charitable organization because in their belief system, that furthers poverty by helping people who are impoverished. I don't get it. I think it's a misuse of principle, and they get to do it however they do it. And I get to stand in my truth, in how I interpret these teachings, without criticizing, without blaming, without finger pointing, without condemning. Because if I go to judgment about those folks, now I'm having a negative impact, even if only vibrationally. Right? We can see the problem and be in solution if we choose. If we choose. I'm not suggesting that if you see someone on the side of the road that's hungry and some innate fear pops up in you that you bypass that and stop. Quite the opposite. It doesn't cost you a dime and it doesn't endanger you physically to breathe a prayer. That costs you nothing. Absolutely nothing. We are a tithing community. We tithe to community nonprofits. We, this whole month, right, are bringing in goods to pass those on to grassroots crisis intervention. Because we get to give from the overflow if we choose. And you get to not do that if you choose. It's up to you. But whichever thing you choose, choose it because it's in spiritual alignment. Choose it because it feeds your soul, the activity of creation as you, and for no other reason. Right? Because I promise you, if you live from the God consciousness that is you, you will never need to make another amends. Ever. You won't. Doesn't mean you won't make mistakes, but you won't be harming anyone by living from God consciousness. People will disagree. They will. Right? I don't even know how many religions we have in humanity now, but it's evidence that we clearly cannot agree. And maybe we don't need to. Maybe an infinite something that expresses an individualized multiplicity isn't even about agreement. It's about expression. It is about vibration. It is about wholeness. It is about doing what uplifts, not tears down. How does science of mind define Satan? It is simply the idea that we're separate. That's it. It really doesn't talk about Satan anymore. I mean, there's no oppositional power to one. So we don't have a concept of Satan. But what we feel that relates to Satan is separation. We do talk about the sensation and the experience of hell. I love what Gary said. When we're okay, right where we are, we're in heaven. When we understand that we are an integral part of one wholeness, we're in heaven. Heaven does not mean you get everything you want. Heaven doesn't mean your humanness likes everything that happens. So perhaps more than defining how we understand Satan, we might want to spend some time how we're defining heaven. Right? Because if you define heaven based on the qualities and quantities of this physical realm, you will be in hell a lot. If you define heaven by your bank account, you are building a condo in hell. I'm just saying. If when your vehicle breaks down, you see that as God abandoning you, welcome to hell. It's a vehicle. It's going to break down. You are traveling in a body. Guess what? It's going to break down. It's not meant to be your permanent residence. It's your residence right now. And that's all it is. It's not the truth of who you are. Your behavior is not the truth of who you are. Your behavior is a reflection of what you believe. And so if you move through this world believing and acting like you live in a bubble and what you do doesn't impact the whole, there's Satan.
The devil made me do it.
The devil made me do it. All right, Flip. Let me just date myself. Right? But it's almost easier sometimes to have this oppositional force because then I don't have to take 100% responsibility. Right? When I believed in Satan, on the human level, it was oftentimes easier, and sometimes I wish I could reclaim my ignorance. Right? I do. I ain't gonna lie. Because it's easier to, well, God doesn't want me to have it, and Satan is railing against me, than to look at how I'm screwing up my life. I'm just saying. Right? But I will tell you this. The freedom, and the only true freedom that I have ever claimed in this physical body, is when I stand face to face with myself and own it all. Undefended, unapologetically. Own it all. Eyeball to eyeball in the mirror with you. Because this step is not about anybody else. It's about you owning you. So this week, you're invited to explore two concepts. How do you define harm? And how do you define amends? Just start there. Because if you're not clear how you're defining harm, you're not going to make a list of who you've harmed. Because you will conveniently define harm in a way that negates the need for a list. I ain't judging, I'm just saying that's kind of sort of how your brain will do it. Okay? There is no oppositional power. There is no Satan. It's a concept that was made up. If you believe in it, you get to. But you don't have to. You can free yourself from that anytime you choose to. And if I can help, let me know. I will. So let's take this into prayer. One breath, breathing itself as creation. One substance that is the source of all that is seen and unseen, all that is unformed and formed. Infinite possibility expressing itself into manifestation. By whatever name we call it, it is so far beyond a name. In this moment, I recognize it as love, as God, as Buddha, as Allah, as Great Spirit, and as the great mystery that is beyond what my human brain will ever comprehend. And yet is that thing within me that recognizes itself because I am that. And so I claim and affirm that that which I am recognizes itself. Beyond any behavior, beyond any thought, beyond any sense of separation. I claim and affirm an awareness and ownership of the essence of being within that is beyond behavior and simply knows the truth of one. I know that what is true of me is true of all, so I know that the words coming out of my mouth are the infinite speaking a desire of itself into manifestation. That desire is received and acted upon by the activity of creation, the doer of creation that I call law. That acts the same on every request, no matter who is making the request, no matter who is desiring. It is responding to the desire of one power, making it so. Without hesitation, without qualification, it simply makes it so. And so I am careful, I am intentional, I am purposeful in the desire that I hold in mind, taking 100% responsibility that it will be made manifest. It is made manifest instantly. And so knowing it is done instantly, I know it's already complete. I know it's already done. Before I can see it, I know it. And so knowing it is that place of faith. And so I anchor in the faith that humanity is awakening to its responsibility, to its impact. That this journey of coming home to the divine self is already done. And that humanity is simply navigating the journey of awareness to what it is. And so I let go. There's nothing for me to force. There's nothing for me to make happen. And everything for me to receive and allow and recognize. And so I do. I let go of the fear. I let go of the doubt. I let go of the arrogance that says, I am the one. I let go. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amin. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.